Hello everyone. Our group will introduce to you the topic of problem-centered curriculum analysis. Here are our group members. In the following presentation, we will divide it into three parts, starting with an introduction and then delving into the educational design approach to problem-centered curriculum and their importance in higher education. I will cover the first part of the introduction. First, let's review the definition of problem-centered curriculum. Problem-centered curriculum is an educational design methodology that focuses on integrating subject matter knowledge with real-world problems and situations so that students can learn more through problem solving. Compared with the traditional form of teaching centered around the teacher's lecture, the problem-centered curriculum pays more attention to the play of students' subjective initiative. Students can take the initiative to explore knowledge in the classroom and develop the habit of independent problem solving. So, why is curriculum design necessary in higher education institutions? The key is to develop students' problem-solving skills. The need for curriculum design in higher education institutions lies in the development of students' problem-solving skills. The curriculum should be problem-driven, leading students to think about, analyze, and solve real-world challenges. Synthesize interdisciplinary knowledge and cultivate the abilities of lifelong learning and teamwork. Curriculum design should be closely related to the needs of society. Emphasize the combination of practice and theory, and cultivate students' innovative thinking and practical skills, so as to equip them with comprehensive literacy to cope with complex problems in the future. Now, moving on to why problem-centered curriculum applies to higher education curriculum. Problem-centered curriculum adequately meets multiple needs in higher education curriculum, including an emphasis on problem solving to develop higher order thinking, multi-level learning to meet the needs of technological practice, group work to promote collaborative skills, problem solving to develop self-directed cognition, and the use of open-ended questions, information and communication technology to promote innovation. This establishes problem-centered curriculum as the ideal higher education program design. Next, let's enter the second part.
Through the introduction, we already know that we need to provide students with necessary tools and skills to cope with life's challenges. Curriculum is one of the forms of teaching knowledge. In 2005, Barnes and Co. proposed that curriculum should be one of the key concepts in discourse on higher education. It's through curriculum that the core of this class is put into practice. Now, let's look at the common features of higher education institutions. Here, I give examples of the curriculum structures of two schools in Hong Kong and Indonesia. We can see that all the curriculum structure are regular and logical. Students should study at different stages of semester. Then, I summarize five key points from the research literature on curriculum features in higher education. Firstly, the curriculum consists of general education, a major specialization, minors, and electives. The rationale for this structure has been to ensure breadth through distribution requirements and depth through the major. The list of proficiencies identified by college and university, critical thinking and problem solving skill, communication skill, technology and informed literacy, and so on. Diversity learning is a high priority, including multicultural and intercultural understanding. In 2000, 70% of reporting institutions have a diverse course requirements over developing one. Related to diversity learning is the interdisciplinary study which are considered a major trend in teaching and research at the higher education. Innovative teaching methods and assessment of student learning are the key features for better improving course quality. 90% of seniors put into a national spree indicate they had participated in group work in class during college. Next page, we will discuss about the feature of problem-centered design of curriculum. Firstly, the curriculum is designed to address real-world problems, ensuring the content is not only meaningful, but also directly applicable to the student lives. In our classroom, students are not merely spectators, they are designers of their education. They can apply their knowledge and skill to develop an innovative solution. And the problem addressed in PCC reflect real challenges encountered in real life. By immersing students in problem-solving scenarios, we prepare them to face complexities of the world outside the classroom. Collaboration also lies at the core of the PCC. Students can work together, fostering teamwork, communication, and problem-solving skills. Then, experiential learning is also a cornerstone of this curriculum, ensuring that students remain engaged and motivated throughout their educational journey by providing opportunity for practical application. We bridge the gap between the theory and practice. And the curriculum simulates in targets multiple content areas. We can combine lots of different subjects. Crucial, this practical application not only reinforces their understanding, but also cultivates a sense of responsibility and agency, empowering all them to contribute meaningful to society. Last but not least, the teachers as well as a supportive role rather than delivering information. Teacher can guide students through the exploration and sense-making of problem-solving process. In conclusion, the problem-centered curriculum is a bloody stem toward shaping a generation of empowered critical thinkers. That's all my part. My friend will come down the next part of the analyze.
Now we are going to look at the importance of problem-based curriculum in higher education institutions, why this type of curriculum design is important in a higher education institution. Number one reason is this type of design fosters critical thinking around authentic and real-world experiences. Now, what happens is problem-based learning or problem-centered curriculum, it aligns with social constructivism theory. In this theory, the phenomena is that students in a constructivist classroom setting, they actually understand a phenomena by interacting with their peers or the groups, and they try to solve authentic learning activities which are relevant in a real life context. This promotes communication and social skills which are necessary in the workforce, the 21st century skills which are necessary in the workforce. By solving problems like this leads the students to contribute later in a socially acceptable manner once they graduate from their higher education institutions. The second reason is it fosters independent and lifelong learning skills.
Now, PBL encourages students to take responsibility of their own learning, meaning that when solving real life context problems, students in this design of curriculum, students they learn how to identify what their learning needs are, what are the information that they need to seek, and then they will collaborate this information with their peers to solve the problems. And this type of design allows adaptation of different learning styles, so students are able to learn how to actually find solutions, how to find information about their relevant tasks, and consequently, they become independent in finding information and they become lifelong learners. They develop lifelong learning skills. The third reason why a problem-based curriculum is important in higher education institution is because it prepares students for their future career. Now, engaging students in a real-world problem context, it encourages them to analyze information, to evaluate different options that are available, and to develop creative solutions to those problems. They develop interpersonal relationship skills through this process, and also they integrate knowledge across different disciplines, not just one specific type of problems, but they deal with different type of problems, so they gain information in different fields. And these skills are essential for success both in their higher education as well as when they move on into the workforce. Now let's look onto the history of problem-centered curriculum approach in higher education institutions. How and when was this approach introduced in higher education institutions? The very first attempt of such a curriculum was in 1969 in the McMaster University School of Medicine, which was in Canada, and they did a pilot project with 20 students. And their current approach in following this method of curriculum is they usually develop learning objectives based on the problem or a specific case, and then they identify educational resources of, and ways of synthesizing information related to that case, and they bring back those synthesized information to the problem at the next tutorial, and then they discuss the findings. The tutors act as facilitators for group processes and discussion, and then self, peer, and tutor-based assessment. These are the steps or the components that they currently have in their PBL approach. It may be a little different from when they actually started this approach way back in 1969, but the very first attempt of a problem based curriculum was done in the McMaster University. And ever since then, the success of problem-based curriculum has made it spread around the world, and more than 500 educational institutions have now adopted this kind of curriculum, and even some K-12 schools, that is, A-level schools. When we look to the Asian region, over the last 10 years, many Asian countries have implemented problem-based learning, and specifically, the Malaysian higher education also have adopted this design of curriculum. They're mostly using a problem-based curriculum in the fields of engineering, ICT and multimedia, medical and dental sciences, physics, and teacher education. How did we know that the problem-centered curriculum design has been a success? What are the reasons behind other schools and institutions adopting this design? Now, there has been some reviews of this design by some researchers, and one of them is in 2003, Doshi et al. They analyzed 43 empirical articles based on problem-based learning in different fields of higher education, and their study actually found a robust positive effect on students' skills when those institutions applied problem-based learning. And then again in 2003, Koo reviewed problem-based learning practices in medical schools across Asia, and this study concluded that most schools and students were positive about adopting problem-based learning. This study also interestingly claimed that successful problem-based learning implementation is further enhanced by strong support from academic administrators and the training of both faculty and students. So basically, they found out some factors which were needed to enhance the problem-based learning implementation and its success. As the study of Coop in 2003 suggests, there are some conditions that need to be there to apply problem-centered curriculum in higher education institutions. So what are those rationales? What are the components that need to be in place to apply this curriculum in higher education institutions? The adoption of problem-centered curriculums require considerable changes in more than one perspectives. I have identified three of them according to researchers. One is classroom management, the second one is the role of teachers, and the third one is role of students. So these three roles need some changes or some input in order to implement a successful problem-based curriculum. The first two factors, classroom management and the role of teachers, are a bit complicated and they can be issues for some higher education institutions to implement a problem-based curriculum, especially in the Malaysian context. And now these two factors are also important factors highlighted by Archie and Nine in their 2005 study as factors that need to be considered before the implementation of problem-based learning. Now, when we look at the first one, classroom management, what does it mean? The open-mindedness of faculty members in acceptance of problem-based learning, basically having support from the administrators, the administration towards this kind of curriculum. Classroom management in the problem-centered curriculum design requires a different set of classroom arrangements, a different set of resources and materials for teaching the content because there'll be a lot of group discussions and students need access to various materials like computer systems to do their information research and such. So in the first place, the administration needs to be on board with this kind of curriculum design so that they can provide proper support. Now, in the context of Malaysia, the Malaysian higher education system is highly centralized, meaning the supports, the funding and approvals come from the administrative people. Therefore, they need to be in collaboration with the teachers and with the whole school in implementing this type of curriculum design. And the second one is the role of teachers. Now, academic staff training is the second most important factor in implementing a problem-centered curriculum. Now, why we need to train academic staff for this kind of curriculum is the staff need to be trained for their new role in the problem-based learning class, because what happens is a lecturer changes their role from the knowledge provider who gives the lectures to a facilitator. Now, what is the role of a facilitator? A facilitator only facilitates discussions, not give lectures regarding the problem. A facilitator needs to know how to motivate, encourage the students, when to intervene, how to encourage their critical thinking, and how to manage the class setting in a group dynamic, because most of the time students will be working in groups in the PBL context. So a facilitator needs to learn all of these techniques and need to be aware when to intervene and how to encourage the students for a better success of the curriculum design. The third factor or the third rationale for implementing problem-based curriculum is the role of students. What does students need to do in order for this curriculum implementation, in order to make sure it's a success? Now, students also need to adapt and adjust a little bit, just like the administration of the higher education institutions and just like the teachers. Students need to develop some skills and then they need to understand some basic ways of dealing with their learning. And there are three important factors that I've identified from research. The students need to have intrinsic empowerment, entrustment, and functional skills in order to make the problem-centered learning curriculum design a success. What is intrinsic empowerment? The theory behind this factor is that students need to take charge of their learning in the problem-centered curriculum design. Now, first of all, they need to show proactive behavior, meaning they need to take part actively in the discussions in the classroom. The second one is being organized, meaning that systematically managing roles. This actually refers to the fact that while during discussions, students, if they're supposed to be giving ideas in a discussion, they need to give ideas. If it is time for problem solving, they need to provide ideas for solutions. And then if it is the data management phase, they need to help with the management of data, and they need to be systematic and organized in the work that is going on in the classroom. And the other one is being diligent, that refers to doing self-revision, meaning students need to actually go back and reflect on what they have learned, and they need to keep up to date with their learning by revising on their own what they have achieved, what they're currently working on, and what are the prospective solutions. They need to keep revising, doing self-revision. The other factor that comes under intrinsic empowerment is being resourceful. The students need to acquire knowledge from different sources. They need to go beyond the traditional ways, and they need to read, and they need to search information. They need to go and ask people or interview. They need to find authentic sources and gather information from as much as different sources as they can get. So under intrinsic empowerment, students need to have these features in order for a higher education institution to be able to implement a successful problem-centered curriculum design. The second role of students is entrustment. The theory behind entrustment is students need to trust the process, trust what they are doing in the problem-based learning curriculum. The first one under entrustment is student as an assessor, meaning students have to evaluate their own performance. They have to evaluate whether they are doing good in the discussions in the classrooms, and if they need improvement, they should be assessing their own self and trying to bring improvement. The second one is students as a teacher, meaning successful peer teaching should be done within the peer groups in a problem-centered curriculum. The students in order to do peer teaching, the students need to be up to date with the information, and they need to revise their learning so that they are up to date and they have the correct information to be able to help their peers in understanding the content. The third one is they need to give feedback, meaning constructive feedback on individual and group performance. So it is not the facilitator or the lecturer who is going to be giving feedback. It has to be the students. They need to give feedback from time to time to their group members or to their individual performance on how to improve the performance. It is not only the facilitator's role. And students also have to receive feedback, meaning they have to listen carefully to the feedback given to them and then ask questions to clarify the feedback. For example, if the facilitator is giving feedback on their work, they need to listen attentively, and then they need to ask questions about how to correct regarding the feedback that they receive. So under entrustment, these factors are very important part of the students. As students, they need to take on these roles in order for a successful implementation of problem-centered curriculum design. In the previous slides, we have learned that Malaysian higher education institutions have also adopted problem-based curriculum, and mostly till date, medical universities are one of the priority universities where they try to implement this design of curriculum. And one of the universities, University of Malaya, also now adopts this curriculum. First, they started with a pilot implementation of problem-based learning at their Department of Clinical Engineering. because the clinical engineering department head, he was inspired by the need for electrical engineering graduates who were equipped with all the skills that were necessary in the workforce for electrical engineers, like analytical, technical, high order thinking, and teamwork skills. So they implemented a pilot program with practical skills, real world problem solving, and then they had very favorable outcomes in that university, University of Malaya. And so other faculties were encouraged by the success of problem-based learning in the chemical engineering faculty. So other faculties also adapted this design in University of Malaya. One of the faculties was Faculty of Education. They were actually inspired to prepare teachers with new and high-level competencies and skills that are necessary to teach innovative curriculums today. Another practical application of problem-centered curriculum in Malaysian higher education is again Medical University, University of Science Malaysia, USM. So in this university, the problem-centered curriculum is implemented in its medical school, and their curriculum for the whole 5-year programs of both their medical and dental surgery degrees are problem-based and also community oriented. And their curriculum includes aspects of their curriculum includes lectures, practical sessions, some fixed learning modules, and also clinical practice. Practical is like from the lectures they gain information and then they do practice usually in a classroom setting, and then they have some fixed learning modules for gaining knowledge, and then they have the clinical practice where they actually practice their learning on real patients in a real world situation in real hospitals. So it's an integration of both the knowledge, content, content knowledge, and also practical learning.
Now I will show my part conclusion, advantage and disadvantage of problem-centered curriculum design. Advantages of problem-centered curriculum design: improve critical thinking. PCC helps students learn how to think objectively and solve problems by making them learn on their own and having group discussions. Students work together to solve real-world problems, which makes them think of new ideas. Improve knowledge retention rate. PCC helps students remember what they have learned by making them take an active role in learning and fixing problems. When students solve real-world problems, they are more likely to remember and understand what they have learned. Improve self-learning ability. PCC wants students to learn how to learn on their own by encouraging them to find and answer problems on their own. They have learned to think for themselves and actively seek out information. Enhance teamwork. PCC helps students learn how to work together by having them talk about problems and solve them as a group. They learned how important it is to communicate clearly, work together, and do things together. Cultivate innovative thinking. PCC students are not only wanted to solve real-world problems, but they are also pushed to come up with new and creative ways to do so. This helps kids learn how to think outside the box and solve problems. Enhance self-confidence. Students can learn on their own and talk with others in groups to answer problems and do well on their own. This makes them feel better about themselves and more able to try new things and deal with problems. Improve learning motivation. PCC connects learning with real life, making learning more exciting and fun for students. They can visually see the results of learning, thus improving their motivation to learn. Make education fairer. PCC encourages all students no matter what their experience is or how we it's all how well they can do something to take part and contribute. For all students to have the chance to grow their skills and gifts, this helps make the school life influenced. Disadvantage of problem-centered curriculum design require time and resources. PCC needs a lot of time and resources to prepare and implement, including problem design, mentor training, and student evaluation. This may put some pressure on the resources of the school and educational institutions. In the high-level teachers, for PCC, teachers are required to have high teaching ability and professional accomplishment, and teachers are required not only to have professional knowledge, but also to have the ability to guide students to learn independently, which makes the training and introduction of teachers more difficult. Not suitable for all students. The training method of PCC may not be suitable for all students, especially those with poor learning foundation, lack of motivation and self-confidence, or lack of language expressing ability. They may encounter difficulty in PCC. In the evaluation and feedback, PCC stresses active learning, which means that the students need more tests and comments to see how they are doing. This makes teachers' job harder. So PCC evaluation is harder to understand and measure than standard evaluation method. This makes it harder to handle teacher and keep an eye on quality.
PCC is a teaching method that emphasizes students' acquisition of knowledge and skills by solving practical problems during the learning process. This approach enables students to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills both academically and practically by guiding them to confront complex problems, think independently, and solving problems collaboratively in higher education institutions. Many academics support PCC methods. For example, Dewey said in his book Experience and Educations, education is not a preparation for life, education is life itself. Here are some examples of the practical and applications. Many universities have adopted PCC. For example, the design thinking process at Stanford University in the US. Stanford University's design program is known for trialing unique problem solving methods and emphasize PCC designs. Courses usually organize students into the multiple subject group to use the independently knowledge to solve the complex problem in the real world. Design thinking emphasizes a user-centered approach to the incorporates user needs and experience into the core of the problem solving, encourage students to actually interact with the use to gain a deeper understanding of the nature of the problem and better meet use need. Courses usually set a silhouette of the real-life problem and encourage students to think of the innovative solutions. Students understand the problem for the multiple dimension and provide a deeper input into the solutions. The design thinking process at Stanford University in the US use of the above methods to enable students to use the innovative thinking in the process of the solving problems and develop a comprehensive design capability. Regarding the practical effect of the design thinking process, the doctors Sherry Sharper and others mentioned in research paper published in the Journal of the Energy Education that the course can effectively improve the student's creative thinking, problem-solving ability, and communication skills. And another example is the University of Manchester, UK. The University of the Manchester School of the Medicines advocate PCC learning, emphasize group collaboration, and promotes the cultivation of the teamwork and the communication skills among medicine students through an emphasis on cognitive, practical, and intentions theoretical knowledge is the transfer into the practical skills and provide opportunity to the interact with the patient and another medicine professors, and ensuring they continually improve their learning and teamwork by receiving regular feedback and assess. This PCC design helps the cultivate medicine process with the critical thinking, teamwork, and the practical skills to better meet the need of the modern medicine field. From this we can summarize that the PCC design have four main benefits. The first point is to the promote practical application. PCC design enables students to directly apply theoretical knowledge to practical the problem and the situations. The second is to emphasize the collaboration and the communication, promoting students to work together to solve the problems, develop the skills in the teamwork and effective communications. The third is to stimulate critical thinking by introducing challenges and complex problems to stimulate student critical thinking. Finally, it can improve the motivation. Linking learning to problem can improve the students' learning enthusiasm. In general, the PCC approach is widely used in higher education and is conducive to cultivating their ability to successfully cope with the challenges in the complex environment. The methods emphasize that the process of the learning is to solve problems, not to transfer knowledge, and to meet the students' learning needs and the future career requirements. The role in the improvement students' learning motivation, independently comprehensive ability, practical problem solving ability, and the teamwork and the communication skills is demonstrated, providing the student with a comprehensive and in-depth learning experience. It's important. That's all. Thank you. Thank you for your listening.